to the Cheap Ass Podcast,
where we talk about life, love, and everything in between.
with little to no equipment.
This is the Cheap Ass Show.
We're on live, guys. Welcome back to the Cheap Ass Podcast, guys. So, again, me, Thomas, the host, one of the hosts today, and I'll let my...
And I'm Francois, and today I'm an actual co-host, not a secondary host. Welcome back, everybody, and please welcome our guests sitting on the bed right now, Chloe and Cooper.
Woohoo!
And you just got a promotion now, so you're just also a host.
Feeling great.
And so today we'll welcome Maya. So, hi, Maya.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. I'm Maya. I'm a friend of Thomas and Francois, and they invited me to do the podcast. And because I've never done something like this, I thought it's a great idea to try something new, ask some embarrassing questions, find something out that I didn't know before.
Sounds great.
Sounds fucking great, guys. Maya, how did we meet each other? That's the question we always ask our guests. So how did we meet? How did you meet us?
Actually, interesting, because I was thinking about this before, but I was volunteering in a hostel in Rome here, and Thomas was a guest, so I saw him walking around in his trench coat, looking all classy, and he didn't talk to anyone. I thought he was too cool, but in the end it turns out he was quite shy. But at some point in the evening we started talking, and I think from that point on, because he decided to stay in Rome, we just saw each other quite often, got friends, became quite close, and then one day, I can't remember, I think you have to remind me of how you guys met, but he introduced me to Francois after they've been sleeping at each other's places somehow.
I didn't have a place to stay, guys. That's why, and he was nice enough to take me.
And I was very, very happy to take him in.
But nothing weird going on.
That's what they tell us. Exactly.
And so I met Francois, and then I introduced Francois to Maya. So now the question is, how did you end up in Rome, Maya? That's the question everybody wants to know.
Ooh. So Rome was more of a coincidence. I was traveling since September last year, and after I'd volunteered in some places, I went to Rome as a guest to stay at a hostel. I met some nice people, had some drama going on, and regardless of that, I decided to stay in the hostel, to volunteer there, to stay for free, because volunteering, I don't know if some of you've heard about it before, but it's where you get free accommodation and food, and you can stay at a place, do some work. In the hostel, it's mostly social work, so that's also something new to me. I think I've grown a lot from that. Maybe we can talk about this later as well, how it pushes you to be in such a social setting. But yeah, so I really loved Rome. It was a really lively city. I'm from Berlin, so it's also a really lovely city. But here in Italy, I found people to be more open and welcoming, which is why I loved to have the opportunity to stay here longer. And yeah.
Did I miss something, or did you tell us why you chose Rome specifically?
Specifically, because I think at this point I didn't have a plan, so I was just looking for where I could go next. And then I found out that they do the volunteering at the hostel, which is why then I thought it would be a great idea to stay. And after I had volunteered there in December, I came back for January, and also now I was volunteering in March. And I met the people in the hostel. The staff is great. I was successful in creating a group of friends. So, which was one of them, also Thomas, obviously, great reasons to stay in Rome.
Shout out to Thomas. Yeah.
Always.
Shout out to me, guys. you just have to know something about Maya. She's a social monster, let's say. No, in a good way. I mean, she know, you will talk about it during the podcast also. You've been doing that for a long time, volunteering in social place, in hostels. So you kind of become an expert in that. And it's really interesting to see her work, because I know people say, oh, it's not a real work, it's just like volunteering in a hostel. But at the end of the day, I did it also. That's how we met, because of her, I could take her place, her job there, because she had to move, and I could volunteer at the same hostel. And it's really exhausting, even though people think, of course, it's not a real work, you don't get paid, but still it's a work where you put a lot of energy. I think it can be really exhausting, especially when you want to also to see your friends, your real friends after, because you have to talk to like completely stranger all day, and then you don't have that many battery to speak to people you really like and to develop friendship you really like. But she was really great at doing that. I that's at least how I see it. And that's pretty cool to work with her. We didn't really work together.
Yeah, because I kindly remind you of you saying that it wouldn't be a good idea to start volunteering together after just knowing each other. Even though I know now it would have been really funny. But I have two things to say to you. First of all, what I have realized is that I think it's really lovely to hear someone speak about you nicely, because I often find it difficult to give people compliments, even though in my head I appreciate them a lot. And now these kind of settings, I think, help people to open up, and it gives you a nice feeling. I appreciate you saying that. And second of all, you're absolutely right. In the hostel, when I work and explain guests what I'm doing, what the work looks like, they are always underestimating the effort that I put in, because it's really, really exhausting to also live in the place you work and to have to always be social and be nice and respectful and also swallow a lot of things down. Where you have to find like a balance between standing up for yourself, but also, yeah, I think being nice because you're a part of the hostel and people want to have a nice experience.
Yeah, overall but it's still a pretty cool experience. And
For sure.
In a way, I wanted to ask you a question. We found out, like, François is 27 years old. I'm 21. I will turn 22 in 5 days, guys. If you wanna celebrate with us my birthday. And Maya, here, did you say your age? I forgot. I'm sorry.
I'm 19.
She's 19, so she's younger than us, and I've still found, and François was saying it to her last time, maybe you want to talk also about it, she's a really mature person. And I wanted to ask you, do you think you could trace back why? Do you think this year really helped you, or like it's something you have maybe, I don't know, having a lot of experience with adults, hanging out with older people since you're a very young age, or no? And maybe if you want to talk about it.
I think that's an interesting question. For me, I would differentiate actual inner maturity and also just seeming confident to other people on the outside. I think I always was quite sure of myself. I obviously had a lot of insecurities, as most teenagers had, and I still have them. But still, I was quite sure of what I wanted to do with my life and what direction I wanted to go, what I enjoyed, and I could always keep my boundaries with people, for example, with friends. But the confidence that I now have with just being comfortable in a lot of situations, that's something that I really learned with the volunteering work, because you're always surrounded by new people. You have to, for example, part of my job is making people join in social settings and in activities, so you're trying to make everyone happy and joyful, and that's something where you really have to learn to talk to anyone really in any situation. In another hostel where I was volunteering at in February, there was also a shift that would, for example, allow me to go out with guests and really to talk over older people that were also drunk and make yourself feel heard. That's something that costs a lot of energy and confidence. So as you said, it's absolutely right. Talking to a lot of different people from all over the world, a lot of people that were older, is something that helped me a lot to gain, I think, maturity also to the outside and experience.
That's absolutely true, guys. Believe it or not, I used to be a little weirdo, and I can tell you guys that traveling is a great form of education. It's intangible and abstract in a way because you can't really pinpoint how it helps, but you will grow if you travel. And there are ways to travel for cheap. I can talk about that later. But yeah, please try to get out of your city, of your country, and meet new people and get out of your comfort zone, because you will become like Maya, which is very desirable. So yeah, guys, travel.
That's true. I think traveling is a great way, and also sometimes if you need a little help from the outside, just, for example, listening to podcasts where people have experienced something that you are longing to experience as well can help you. Listening to other stories where people might have taken smaller steps in the beginning. Just for a lot of people, and for me it used to be like this as well, it's a big deal to go to a restaurant and eat on your own. I think now in social media you see a lot of people that tell you it's a great thing and it's simple and everyone can do it, but still, just push yourself. There's really nothing you have to lose. People forget about you quite quickly. Which is sad, but also really helpful. If you take on small steps in different aspects of your life, and then maybe you finally manage to take some time off to travel, do the volunteering, for example, it's really, really great. gives you a lot of character, I think.
I think I want to maybe push. You said people forget really easily, and I think it's a true thing. But I also think like everybody here at this table and our first live guest can also confirm. You forget really easily bad people, but you also make a lot of good friends that you will keep forever. Cooper, who is right here, was the first guest. It's a guy we really love him here, and I think we'll meet him again. That's for sure. Even though he's living in fucking Seattle, and he might get shot in like 2 days or 3 days when he's coming back to the US. But I think we'll see each other again. Francois, for sure, we're living in the same city now, so that's for sure. And Maya also, like we are just before we were together before arriving for the podcast, and we're already talking about maybe making some plans for the summer and stuff like that. And I can give you so much example of friends I've made. Shout out to Shah, a good friend of me and Maya, also a guy living from London, in London. And so yeah, it's I think traveling it's a really cool thing. Sorry guys. No, it's a cool thing. It makes you more mature, I think. To relate a bit with my story, I think I'm pretty, how can I say that? I'm pretty comfortable with adults. Now it's normal, I'm an adult myself, but even when I was younger. And that's why I ask you the question, because I think for myself I can really go back down to when I was young. And for example, my parents didn't want me to have any like smartphone or something. So every time we had a family dinner, a friend dinner, something like that, I had to stay with the adults, like since I was 8 years old, 9 years old. So it really allows me and to try to develop that thing, to talk with parents, be like, okay, I'm here, so at least I should try a bit to speak with them and have fun in a certain way, I would say. So yeah, that's a cool thing of growing up. And I think traveling can push you, because you have to always make new people. And I know a lot of friends are scared a lot of people out there, maybe people listening to us, are really scared to travel alone, because they say, I'm a shy person, I will not make any friends. I thought exactly the same. My first solo travel was this summer, like 8 months ago. And you want so much to meet new people that you go. And that's crazy, like you're like in such it's like survival state. Because in the city you live in Paris for me, and for you Berlin, for you Bordeaux, we always have like the comfort zone, so we never go talk to people. But when you're alone in a place, you don't care. You see people talking about your group, you're like, oh, I know that group, I went to the concert, and blah, blah, blah. There's always a way to go talk to people, and people are a lot of time nicer during traveling, because they also travel alone. So guys, please do it. And if we continue on that thing, you talk about cheap travel. I think Francois can help us, and also Maya, because she's been on the road for like 1 year almost now. She has like a bit less than 1 year, but she has full of tips. And that guy has fucking great tips about it. So I will let you.
I'm not going to expose all my tips now. We really want to know about your experiences. And my question for you is, could you maybe list or tell us at least about one thing, maybe the craziest things that's happened so far in Rome for you, and maybe also one of the best things that's happened in Rome?
So what I left out before is one of the reasons why I was actually able to stay in Rome and continue doing the volunteering is that when I did my first volunteering in the hostel, I met a woman the first day, and just as Thomas explained, I was really open. I tried to make friends with people. She was a guest and she had breakfast, so I sat down with her and we just talked for 15 minutes about the reason that she was there in this little town close to Assisi in Umbria in Italy. And we got along great, but it was just a talk of 50 minutes. And I told her that I didn't know what I would do after the 3 weeks of volunteering in that place. She was from Rome, actually. She's living in Rome right now. And so she told me that if I don't find anything else, she would invite me over. And so basically what happened is that she hosted me after I'd finished the volunteering in Assisi for 3.5 weeks in Rome with her son and her husband. And it was, I don't know, I don't believe in God, that's a big topic, but I really felt blessed. I felt like that woman was doing so much great for no specific reason. She didn't know me, she didn't have any information about me, she didn't even know my surname. And she just let me like stay in her home, treated me so kindly, like paid attention to my needs, and still we're in touch and we see each other, and I share a lot of things about my life and she's interested in that. We give each other different things, and also it was great to just start off the experience in Rome by living in a family that is from Rome and taught me so many things. One of the greatest things, it's so simple, I love telling that though. Rocco, the son of the family, one time he took me on the scooter, and maybe some of you have watched the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower, and in that movie there's a scene of children or teenagers riding in a car and standing in the car on the rooftop, like looking through the roof of the car and listening to Heroes by David Bowie, exactly. That's one of my favorite songs. And so me and Rocco went to the library, and on the way back when we took the scooter, I made him put Heroes by David Bowie on, and I listened, and I was on the back of the scooter, spread my arms, and really again felt so much joy for something so simple. That was something really memorable.
So shout out to, what's her name? Sorry.
Luisa.
Shout out to Luisa, guys.
And Rocco.
And Rocco, obviously, and Rocco.
And David Bowie.
And David Bowie. and Rome. And Rome.
And Rome.
Also, I guess, in a way. So that was one of your best moments in Rome?
It was. It's something that was a small moment. Obviously, meeting great people and having people I trust and enjoy myself with is something that gives me contentness every day. But this specific moment was great. Actually, something that I was thinking of before when I listened to you as well is that when you travel, you're also meeting different people, obviously, from different backgrounds. And because we're humans, I think quite often we're easy to judge people for superficial things. And that's something that I've learned as well. Because when I was a child, we as our family had specific rules when we would have dinner, for example. Also, no phones. We would have to wait until everyone is seated to start eating, and we would have to wait until everyone has finished to start doing their own things again. So for me, that's something that shows respect. However, when I was volunteering with also a Spanish volunteer, for him that was something that he never really had to follow. He would eat without regarding any of these rules. And for me, the first thing, it was quite off-throwing. But in the end, I learned that for him, because he didn't pay attention to it, he didn't disrespect me in that way. It was just for him, other things were much more important. And I think these small experiences helped me a lot as well to see the world more openly and to not always say these people are doing it differently than I had learned how to do it. It's just that respect is something that you also have to communicate, where your boundaries are, what you expect. That in general, I always say communication is so important, but that's something when you travel that I've learned again as well.
I have a lot of questions. I think maybe to stay a bit in like have a lot of questions, or maybe to stay in the thing of like the best thing you did in Rome. A question I really like, because when I was in Firenze, I stayed 1 month there with some friends, and we had the question, what was your like deception or regret? Do you regret something you didn't do, or maybe you didn't experience? For example, when I was in Firenze, my biggest regret is I didn't have a love story there. But you don't choose that, like it happens to you, but it was my regret. So maybe you have a regret here, a thing you didn't do, a thing you didn't experience, you want to share with us?
Well, regarding the love, I think I've also been blessed with a lot of love throughout my travels. I met amazing people. I had a lot of experiences in sex that I didn't have in that amount when I was at home, because you're more open. Also, when you live with people, you're thrown into such an intimate moment, so you're more likely to develop something sexual or romantical with that person. So actually, for this part, I'm really proud that I just went with the vibe. I just didn't hold back for being shy about something. When I was interested in a person, I would go for it. However, as I was saying before, I think sometimes communication is really good. There is a person that now it's a bit weird with, because of past something sexual we had that we didn't really communicate well. And I always think that it's best if you speak about what you feel like. And I never did that because I was thinking it would create even more drama, just for you to and get an understanding of what the situation is like. We used to have something for just a couple of days, and now it's that we don't even acknowledge each other properly, which is fine to some extent, but still, because I really liked him as a person, I think it's quite sad that it had to go this way. and leaving Rome without solving the situation might be something I would regret later on. So, and I have another story about this as well, where I didn't stand up for myself. When I was actually with that Spanish volunteer, we also had something sexual, and there was another volunteer, and she completely disrespected me and how she treated me, and by not saying hello, goodbye, she would stare at me, insult me, and being a bitch. I have to say it like this, but really being disrespectful. And I never said something because I didn't want the situation to go in a bad direction. But I still regret it to this day that I never stood up for myself and told her that she should respect my boundaries and respect me as a human being. So that's something that I still have to learn.
Okay, super. So, to deception, kind of. Well, I'm sad for you, but overall, I think it's a good experience. At least how you talk about it, I think you're pretty happy about it. Oh, the other things, I mean, of course. I have other questions. I have so many questions. One discussion we had already was about as you said, that pay less attention to the looks of the people. And I know that's a really interesting discussion we had pretty early, I think, in our friendship, because we both come from, I think, for me it's linked to that. I'm pretty sure we both come from pretty big cities. You're from Berlin, I'm from Paris. And at least for me, you'll tell us what you think about that after. I know there people tend to really pay attention to how they look, how they dress, even what music they do, they listen to, what type of activity they do. Oh, we go to the museum, we go to the jazz club, stuff like that. Whether, even though sometimes they're not really interested by that, it's like just a social status they want to give themselves to themselves. And we both said that it's pretty cool because here in Rome, and since I travel since 5 months now, I don't pay that much attention to the look. I could be friend with somebody where in Paris I wouldn't even talk to him, like not in a bad way, but just like not your Cooper. Cooper is like pointing at him. No. But it's like people where I don't say I hate them. It's not like I don't want to be mean, but it's like people where I'll be, I see how he's dressing now. I don't think I will have a lot of common with him. And guys, to be honest, it's like completely false. I would even say that most of my friends here are like completely different of like how people know. I mean, how people...
Are you saying all your friends are ugly now?
What the fuck?
Not ugly, it's like how they pay attention to what they say, how they dress, what no, you're not ugly. It's not about, it's like what type of music they listen, like, you know, in Paris and like in those kind of, in some places, like it's such a social, it's always like it's a theater, it's like a scene of movie, everybody try to play a role. And when you travel, I found out it's like less true. I don't know if you want to add something
to help you out with that. I remember yesterday me and Chloe walked to get some more wine for our little barbecue moments, and I told her, if I remember correctly, that in Berlin an insult that you get is being a basic bitch. That's something where I can really relate to. I think also, in Berlin, maybe it's similar in other big cities, that people pay too much attention to how they look. It's something superficial. As you said, most people that go do something, they don't do it because they actually care for it, but just to say they're looking for a niche and they are specifically unique and they dress so unique. So people overemphasize how they dress and what perceptions other people will have of them. I think it's true that here as well I've learned that still, if you meet someone that dresses a specific way, especially when they're from your home country, you can tell sometimes something about their political views. So it does help you, I think, to have a small idea about how the people are thinking, but still it's so superficial. So when I traveled, I met people and I talked to them, and they were much greater and more interesting people with more maturity and more interest in life and more interest in music than people that had dressed and would make you think that they were so unique and special. So I agree that it's something that I like to have overcome. Even though I've realized as well, such as other people, like to pay attention to for example, specifically sneakers, I love to put emphasis on how you dress, and I love looking at people that dress nicely. To me, it's something so specifically nice that I also love to surround myself with people that dress nicely, just because it gives me some, I don't know, well-being. But yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think we already talked about it, so we kind of know a stance on that subject. But yeah, that's true that, yeah, sometimes people pay too much attention to how they dress, and it's cool here you can still hang out with people completely different than you. I mean, at the first sight you might think they're different from you, and you say they pay more attention to music, they're more interested in like music, and they don't lie about it. Like they're really interested in like jazz, they're really interested in vinyls, in photography and stuff like that. But also they're more interested in you, and when they say, hey, I want to know something about you, I want to know what's your story, man, it's something in the look, but it's true. Like it's not false. It's not like a question you ask in a nightclub in Paris. Oh, hey, what's about you, man? It's like something they really want to know about, and I found that pretty cool. You want to add something or no?
Yeah, I think because before we talked about maturity and gaining maturity from traveling, that's where you can really tell that someone is a mature being, because they know what they want and what they look for, and they don't have to impress anyone just by how they dress and by telling, also throwing out what they like. It's just they're so sure of themselves. They like to share it, but more so they're interested in learning new things about other people. And yeah, as you said, you can tell if someone is authentically interested in you.
Yeah, and I found out that small pivot, the small change, was already happening in university. Like for me, the thing from high school, where it's still high school is really fake. Like it's a lot of still social. It's a social fight. Like which group I'm hanging out with, who do I know, which party I'm invited to. And at university, I met some really good friends. That didn't pay that much attention. Like they dressed pretty okay, but it wasn't like something every day they will wake up and be like, oh, I have to wear that and stuff like that. And it was really cool. And that makes me think of another question, because we talk about maturity, and I want to know, both Maya and Francois, what is your definition of maturity? Because you said you thought Maya was mature, but is it like from a social stand of view, or like really how do you define it? I think I have my own idea of mine definition, but I would like to know yours. Maybe Francois first, and then Maya, if it's okay with you.
Oh man, the thing is, I'm a very immature person, so this is not the easiest question for me. I would say maturity is maybe knowing who you are, being more certain of what you want, your direction in life, and that just affects everything in your life. The people you associate with, the things you accept to do, the situations you put yourself in, overall, I think maturity just comes from experience, from being around other people and living and learning to know yourself. It sounds like it's a very basic definition. It's not saying much, but yeah, that's what it is. I consider myself not super mature, because I have friends my age who are already buying houses, making babies, getting life insurance, and I'm out here, making podcasts in my bedroom with a bunch of teenagers. I'm having fun though. I don't know, Maya. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I agree with what you said. I would add that, as I said before, it's more so of not even knowing what you want, because you can also know that you're not quite sure at this specific moment what you want for later on in your life, but more so that you don't have the urge to impress other people. It's just being secure in what you are. And also, I think, yes, it helps so much to be around other people and gain experience from that, and it helps to become more mature. I think more generally speaking, though, it is that people are mature when they push their own boundaries. So for a person that is really social, maybe it's more that they have to learn how to be on their own by themselves and listen to their own thoughts, and this way they will gain more maturity. I think it's something that is not only specifically related to being around with other humans, but yeah, to also be by yourself, or knowing where you want to set a boundary, just simple things that you're not really secure with yet. One thing, I think it's a social concept that maturity comes with things you achieve in life. I don't think you're necessarily less mature than your friends just because they're making babies. Maybe you're much more mature because right now is not the time to have a baby for you. And right now there's no person in your life that you want to have a baby with. I think it's really that these things are usually told, probably also our parents would have experienced this even more, by other generations, that we have to push really fast and have all of these security and social standards quickly in life. But I absolutely disagree. In the hostel I met people that were younger than me, and they were really mature people from my perception, and people that were really old and, for example, would get insulted because of emotional immaturity really easily. They wouldn't be able to hold a conversation without taking everything personal, even though maybe they had a wife and a child. So
can I tell mine, even though nobody asked me?
we all want to know.
I think I really agree with, to be honest, I'm sorry, but I really agree with Maya. I think the thing of getting out of your comfort zone, because as you said, is really a good example. If you're already somebody who is pretty socially strong, I don't know if the word is strong, but comfortable, like naturally, you're not that brave, you're not that mature. I mean, it's just like you just take the cards you have in your life and you use them. So it's not that mature. I also think that for me, maturity is also about making sacrifice, I would say, because I thought, what's the big difference between young children and decision and sacrifice? But they kind of link to it, one to the other. Like, what is the thing I used to not do when I was young? And as I keep making more and more since now that I'm growing up, I think it's making sacrifices. The words sound a bit like crazy, but I think that's the thing when you have to choose between going to that school, or seeing that friend, or seeing your girlfriend, going to that birthday or the other birthday. It's small things. Sometimes it's pretty small. It's like, should I go out with my friends, or should I go out? Should I stay and take a night for me and sleep well and be more relaxed for the next day. Sorry, thank you very much. So I think, the big difference for me is like I started to make sacrifice, because when you're young, you have a lot of different paths still, but your parents make them for you, or you have more social pressure maybe also, so you don't have really the choice as much as we do now. And for example, I'm in a phase where I don't want to study next year, but it's a question I didn't have to ask myself when I was like 14 or 12 or 10 years old. I was going to study, which I found it's also okay. I mean, I'm glad that I went to school, but I think sacrifice and decision is the big part that changed in my life and for a lot of people. And that's why maybe, the more you're spoiled, the less you mature. We say, oh, that guy, I don't like him, he's such a spoiled kid and he doesn't know what real life is, because he never has to take decision. He can go to Bahamas plus to the ski holidays in the same year because he has money for both. He can do that and that. He can do to both parties because he can take a Uber or like taxi or cab, so he can pay for both. And I think for me that's a good thing, and that kind of relate also maybe to taking step and going out your comfort zone and become stronger.
I really like your take on that. One thing I would add to what you said last is that I think it's always really difficult to judge someone's life from the outside, because as you said, from the outside it seems so easy. Someone with money, they can do a lot of things that you cannot do, but I think even these people have a lot of things they go through. If it's not financial pain or issues, it can be still emotional and social issues. Maybe they're just struggling with the fact that they can afford so many things and people around them cannot. And what I always tell people when they tell me that they have an issue and they don't think it's worth of an issue, that when someone struggles about something, however small it is, it's still a struggle. Even though there's people with bigger issues out there, it's still something that you should take seriously. I have a question for you, François. I would like to ask you where you see yourself in 10 years.
Oh, I was going to ask you the same question. Interesting.
That's funny. And also how often you think about this question, if it's something that you're thinking about day to day or...
Well, I was not ready to get interviewed today, but let's see. 10 years is a long time, and you'll find out soon enough. But let's say that, like everybody, I want to be more financially independent. And I think I'm the kind of person who's not going to find their passion anytime soon. So as I tell everybody, I'm just going to try to make as much money as possible with as little work as possible and focus on my hobbies. And I think, as many other people, I want to have an impact, a positive impact on the world. I want to leave the world a better place, and I found it. And I don't know about the rest, man. I didn't know I would be in Rome 2 years ago. I had maybe a hint, like an idea of coming back here because I'd been here 5 years ago. And who knows? The world is really big. There's many places to visit. Not enough time, unfortunately, to see everything. But yeah, travel, hobbies, money, and good relationships. Yeah, the basics. Yeah.
Do you want a family?
I don't think so. I don't think I want a family right now. I don't feel ready to settle down, and I think I'll be more useful to society if I can focus on myself in a selfish way, in a sense. But yes, so far, nope, no family, no plans.
Do you feel that, in general, also to you, Thomas, that you have to give society something back because you're born in this society, that you feel like you have a responsibility because now you are putting so much importance on giving back to society something that is something maybe that is different to me? I don't really feel like I have a responsibility society outside of being, for example, respectful to the people I'm surrounded with by knowing what I'm doing regarding the environment, these things. But for example, if I think about wanting a family, I wouldn't consider society as a other role that plays part in the decision of me deciding to have or have not a family.
This is very, very deep. I never really think about this kind of stuff. No, what I meant when I said I'd be more useful to society if I didn't have a family, it's just that I don't feel like I have enough. I haven't learned enough to pass on to someone else, to a child, and I need to experience more and learn more and get to know myself more before I can teach or mold or sculpt someone new into someone I hope is going to be a good person. Yeah.
You want to add something, or I think also I will ask the same question to you after that about the family thing. I think for Francois, maybe at least for me, it's like well, I'm younger also than Francois, 6 years, 5 soon, in 6 days, and but I think it's like how he lives, how I live now, also how you live a bit. Also, it's like you never know what you're doing almost like in 2 months, and I think the problem with family, at least with kids more than family, that's the only thing where you have to plan in life. Like a job, you can always quit. A place, you can always sell the apartment, find another one. Same for a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you can always say, hey, goodbye. Sorry?
Sell them,
yeah, exactly. But a kid is like, it's the only thing where I think it's really, except if you're like in prison, it's the only thing you can't it's the only thing you can't flee from, and you have to stay there for at least 18 years, and yeah, that's why it's a bit scary, especially when you don't know what you're doing next year. And the same for me, I don't know what I'm doing in 3 weeks, in 21 days. I don't know. I know my parents are coming, I know I'll stay with them in Rome, and then I don't know. So yeah, that's a bit complicated. Do you want a family?
Yes.
Now?
With you?
No, thanks. I just said I don't want to.
I think I really want a family. I'm really sure of wanting to have kids and a partner that I trust and love. However, that got me thinking what you said, Francois, that you don't think that you're ready yet to raise a person and to sculpt them as a person. On the one hand, I absolutely agree. I think what a child mostly needs is love, and love you can give if you're also happy within yourself and, for example, you're not dealing with a strong or harsh mental illness. However, I don't think you necessarily have to sculpt the child that you're birthing into this world. You're gonna influence them with how you live and what your morals look like and how your day-to-day life will look like. All of these things are gonna have a big impact on your child, but they're still their own person. I don't believe you're the same person as the people your parents are, for example. I would like from myself to think that I overcame some things that I really didn't appreciate in my parents' character. And I think to some degree, yes, as you said, you have to be sure with whom who you are, and also give them, for example, financial security. However, I believe that when I'm in a happy place and I have love for myself, I will be ready to have a child. And yes, I really would love to have children. In 10 years, I think, well, I will be 29 or 30, but maybe that's just the start of creating a family. But my happy place in life will be having a loving relationship and a big family where I can invite my siblings, live close to them, and have like cousins and people all around me that I care for and that I love. And because, for example, my childhood was different. I was never surrounded by people. My family doesn't really exist. And my parents are not social either. They would never bring people over. And so this is why I never brought people over. But now also living in a hostel, always being surrounded by people or people you love when you're sharing, for example, with other volunteers a room, that's something that brought me so much peace that I would really like to implement that later on in life.
Did you have something to say, Toma?
No, you wanted to change the subject or still? No, I think also for myself, talking about family and stuff, I'm really scared to have a big fear of being trapped in things. It can be like on a material point of view, like in a people who know me, like in a lift or like a plane or like a bus, a subway station, a subway elevator, yeah. But also from a materialistic point of view, theoretical point of view, where, for example, if I have a kid, even though I want it, I'm sure I want it, my brain might do something of like, oh, now you're trapped, you have to have it, and then I will not enjoy the thing. It's like that for things where I'm supposed to see a friend, for example, just a friend, but I'm like a bit far away from home, and I give like an appointment, so I have to be there. I want to be there, but the fact that now I have to be there can sometimes create me some anxiety, and so just for going to an appointment sometimes. So I imagine having a family and a kid, I think I need more time to work on that a lot, really a lot.
Interesting points, guys. We're quite young still, so don't sweat it too much. Well, you guys are quite young. But enough about 10 years down the line. What's next for you right now? Because you're leaving in a few days. You're going back to Berlin. It's going to be a big change. You'll be a changed person. What's our listeners want to know? What's next for you?
Well, actually, for 2 weeks I will be lucky and see 2 friends of mine from Berlin, and we'll travel around Italy. And after that, as you said, I will go back to Berlin after not having been there since September, except for Christmas. I will live again with my parents and my sister. Also, my brother will come back. So it's quite a change again to live with people you know so well and be surrounded by them all the time. I'm excited for that, but also I know it will cost me a lot of adjustment again. Having lived in a hostel for that long now, I'm afraid I will lose my tempo more quickly, because at home you're more likely to say something, especially when you had to swallow things so much, like so often down before. However, I'm excited to see my friends, something that I was speaking to Toma about as well, and to other people, because that's something that is now really making me think, is how my relationship to my friends from Berlin will look like. As I've been traveling a lot and I've changed, I think, a lot. And everyone, I think, especially in this age when they push their boundaries, is changing. but still it can go that way, that you're changing in different directions, or that you're developing interests in other people and other character traits. You like talking about different things, or you develop a different kind of humor. Can be like really small things. So right now I'm a bit stressed that when I go back, it's not going to be the same fulfilling feeling that I had before when I left, or that now people that I met here are giving, like making me feel. But I guess that's something where you're just gonna have to experience it as well, go there and grow into it as well. Just as raising a family, I think what you said before, you're never gonna know what it's looking like. And I think growing into it and accepting the situation and realizing what you want is gonna help me a lot to figure out a new way. And I know I'm capable of finding new friends if I want to. So I think that's
I just want to go back to. I have two questions. If you want to talk about it, if you feel free to talk about it, can you explain why are you here in Italy and why did you start to travel a bit, or kind of?
Yeah,
if it's okay, if it's okay with you.
So yeah, as I said, well, some things I think most people that I know, they have some things that they don't really appreciate in their parents. But my relationship to my parents hasn't been that great in a long time. So what happened is that basically they were telling me to leave by the date of September. So and because I couldn't find something in Berlin, I had to I was kicked out basically. I had to leave, and so I was thinking that volunteering is a great idea to travel for free or really cheap, and also I think get like a change of perspective, and also relating going back to the relationship with my parents. It's something that I hope has taught me new things in how I can treat my parents differently, how I can change the relationship that I have to them in a new, better direction, because I know that I'm naturally, like I have natural love for them that I cannot overcome, and that I would love for them and for us to be a better, like more healthy family. But yeah, that was the reason, my relationship to my parents. And I think needing a change because I wasn't really happy at home.
Thanks for trusting us and sharing that with us, and especially with the listeners. About that thing that you had to leave the house, and the other thing you said about you meeting Luisa, the woman that accepted you home, and you said you told something about God. And I don't know, you remember her, of course. Angelina, you were working with a girl from Berlin also. Now she's living in Berlin. Shout out to Angelina. A good friend of yours, a friend at least, a good friend, a friend.
She's really lovely.
She's an amazing person, and I want to talk about something she said to me. She's a girl that came to Berlin also, to Rome, sorry, from Germany, and she was supposed only to stay 3 weeks in Rome, and she stayed 2 years. And yeah, it's pretty cool story. And she said, I arrived, and then when I somebody told me, oh, I'm looking for somebody to work at the reception of my hostel. And then she was like, and then like 2 days after, a guy was like, hey, I know somebody who's renting a room for a really cheap price. And all of that to say, she said something to me. She said, sometimes she's not Christian. I don't think she believes in God also. She said sometimes life puts things on your way. Like, it was so easy for her, like everything just appeared, and I think it was the same for Luisa. I have some experience like that myself. I'm a bit a believer in God. Like, it depends. I will consider myself a believer. I believe in God. So I know for me I think it's God. I hope. I don't know. I think it's God. But I also think it's something you can believe in as a atheist also. And do you think sometimes life puts you things in life for you that happen and bring some good consequences?
Absolutely. I think on the one hand you have a lot of choice in how you behave and treat people around you, how you treat the world. And I actually, more than I believe in God, because as you said, I'm an atheist, I believe not necessarily in karma, but some things that happen to me, I think, are just showing me that when you do good, people will do good to you as well. I have a small story from when I did Interrail last year. I was just eating hummus and bread all the time. And so I would go to the store, and there would be a guy that would sit in front of the store close to the hostel that I was staying. And I brought him as well bread and hummus. And afterwards, I was vegan at that time, so it was really difficult for me to find a nice cappuccino. I was walking for a long time, so I got hungry again. I went to a cafe, and the only cake they had was really small cake for €4, and I could not buy that. So I said to her, "It's too expensive. I'm not gonna take it. It's fine, thank you." And then the woman would just give the cake to me and say, "No, try it, have it. It's a gift from the house to you." And that's something that is so small, but I made me feel so good that sometimes you're being nice to people. With Luisa, I was just appreciating her as a person, showing interest in her as a person. So this is why in the end, obviously she did, really, she treated me so well for taking me in her house and being so trustful in me as a person. But I think you can do good, but also sometimes life helps you a lot, I think. And that's related to my relationship to my parents as well. I think she gave me a nice idea of a family again. Her family is really lovely. They're all doing their own things, but they come together for lunch most days of the week, even though both parents work and Rocco goes to university and studies. However, they're meeting at 1 p.m. every day to have lunch together. That's something that made me feel so great. That's something that I would like to continue at home as well, putting importance on small things, small habits.
Do you keep your parents updated on your travels and your whereabouts?
Also funny, I actually have to say I'm embarrassed about this as well, because I forgot my mother's birthday. When I was in Porto, I came back. It was a hostel that I had volunteered at. It was really, really exhausting. It was a party hostel. So I was really sick the 2 days that I came back, and I slept through her birthday. And so that day I was also talking to Thomas about how she was disappointed in me. And since that day, he's always telling me to send pictures to my parents to keep them updated. And yes, I am. That's something I want to change as well, being more in touch with people that I'm not seeing face to face. I really struggle with that, especially now that I've met so many people. Actually putting importance to what you say takes a lot of time. But sometimes we call each other. And when we go back, I think then it's the time for our relationship to grow stronger as well again.
Yeah, on that I think it's you talk about having the family of Luisa and Rocco. They had the lunchtime was a time for themselves. And I remember my parents being a bit, my mom especially, being a bit disappointed sometimes. When you grow up, your brother is at a party, you don't eat with them, or you eat at 6 because you wake up at 4 in the afternoons, things like that, so you're never with them. And I think it's always cool, a small tip to try to implement a family time, if you want to. Of course, some people have awful families and they don't want to have nothing with them, and that's also okay, I guess. But we tried to do something back then with my parents, even though we have pretty okay relationship, but still sometimes we didn't, when we have dinner, it was just we need to eat. It was just the survival thing, let's eat to survive, and then everybody does go back to his thing. And we try to do something where everybody should read, not every day, but from one day on two, an article, newspaper article, and we all had to talk about it at the end of the thing and present the thing. And we did it not that much, to be honest, but we did it few times, and it really helped to create a debate. The problem is we have my brother, we have completely different point of view, and it always end up in yelling and loud fights. But with my parents, it can be really cool because I think they're really intelligent people, even though they're a bit old. I mean, for parents they're okay, but and they still try to be open-minded, and so we always have amazing discussion. And I think it's a cool thing to try to have also a moment with your family, and also sometimes with friends. I remember with a lot of friends we had when I was back in Paris, we had a kind of, shout out to Zephyr, but a thing where every Sunday almost we go walk on the Canal de Pantin. It's a nice place near where I live, and it's cool to also create some a routine, something to do every day or every week. I think it's a nice thing also with friends or family.
Another trick I have that I've figured out is you were talking about maybe wanting to work on staying in touch with people that are not in your life currently, and my trick is just is that every time you think of a person that you haven't seen in a long time, just text them, because you'll be surprised to realize that you don't think about people that often. I might think of someone maybe every 6 months, and that's enough to stay in touch. Every time I think about a person I haven't seen in a long time, I'll just send them a message saying, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, and that's usually enough to keep it going, to keep the relationship alive. Because that is something you will realize as you grow older, is that people do grow apart, friends fade out of your life, and it's important to keep the people you care about in your life, even though they're not physically there. So yeah, that's just a little extra trick.
That is actually something that is linked to what I wanted to reply to your story, Thomas. That I think it helps a lot to realize you shouldn't take things for granted. Friends that you didn't see in a long time, or friends that you made, or parents that you have the privilege to be able to have a dinner with your parents and talk to them and develop an interest. I think for me, gratitude in that sense helps me a lot to appreciate small moments more. And also because you said you were using articles to start a conversation. For me, it's funny to realize how in a lot of aspects my relationship to my parents is broken, but I don't have a lot of boundaries when I talk about sex with them. For example, they know a lot of the things that I experienced the past month. So a question for you would be, do you talk with your parents about sex, or is it something you're more timid about?
For myself, I have a pretty open relationship. Maybe not as much as you, because you give me some example of some stuff. So I don't think it's as much, but still, like, they know, for example, when I see a girl, they know the difference between we are just sex friends, or like friends with benefit, and we are like a couple. When I have like a night hookup, one night stand thing, they also know it in general. My mom, she might hear that, so I have to be polite. But my mom, sometimes she's a bit, she asks too many questions, so I'm sometimes a bit, not like not look in a way, oh, what position, or like what did you do? But more in a way, like, for example, you talk one time, I will say, oh, yesterday I slept with a girl, and she will be like for 1 week, not almost every day, but like twice or 2 times during that week, asking again for her. When I specifically said, like, Mom, it was just a one night stand, and she will continue to ask and think maybe it's like my wife or something, my future wife. But in general, yeah, I talk about those things. Depends on the period. Depends also if you have a lot of friends to talk about it during that time. How much time I spend with my parents. How my parents behave. But that's the thing. I think sadly there's not too much balance, because my dad is sometimes too much unbothered by what I said. Like, I wouldn't say he doesn't care that much. I think he's a bit scared maybe to talk about it with me. But when he does, it's pretty cool. Like, sometimes he asks me questions. It's like just he want to be sure like I'm comfortable with it, so he goes really slowly, but he doesn't do it that often. And my mom, it really depends, but yes, sometimes you just mention one name one time, and for like maybe almost 2 weeks or 3 weeks she can be okay, that maybe I want to meet her almost, and sometimes it discourages me a bit. Sorry. To talk about it sometimes, yeah.
The ASMR we needed.
No, sorry guys.
Yeah, I don't really talk about that kind of stuff with my parents. I don't know where it started. I mean, of course, your parents influence you, and I know that my parents are pretty discreet about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think on your point about your mom, I think all moms are somewhat very interested in their sons' lives and their romantic lives. So yeah, my mom's probably the same. I just don't share as much because I don't feel comfortable with that. And yeah, I'm on that other side of the spectrum of sharing with your parents. Just, it is what it is. I don't feel a need to. I'm a pretty discreet person usually, so yeah, it's not a big problem for me.
And is there a difference when you talk about sex with your male and female friends?
That's a good question. Before I answer that, we're gonna. Oh, okay. Well, I will answer that now before we ask you the other question. Yeah, of course. Well, let's say, I think maybe women have a distorted idea of what guys talk about regarding sex, because I think in popular culture it's really macho and disrespectful, or like, locker room talk. my experience with my male friends has been actually not as extensive in terms of sharing than it has been with my female friends. I'd just say with guys, we're just very, we just don't go much into details. We just say, oh yeah, this happened, and that was fun, but whatever. We don't really share the details. With my female friends, I'll be more inclined to open up and share my feelings about the experience. That would be my impression of it.
Because they give you the space to do that, or because you feel more comfortable with being more open with them, or where's the difference?
I would say I'm generally more emotionally open, and I make myself more vulnerable around women. I think that's a pretty common thing. As guys, we don't open up as much, or we don't feel as comfortable opening up and showing our vulnerable side. So that might be why, yeah.
I think, we talked about it a bit with Cooper during the last podcast about like it was more about mental illness, but it also applied to maybe emotions. I would say maybe sex, we talk about it more maybe, but we talk a bit less about emotion. But depends on my group of friends, it's okay. It's kind of the same, I would say. The big difference is when I talk to a female friend, it's a bit dumb, I know, for me. I always have the impression like she might, because she's a female, and I'm a heterosexual man, so I only hang out with girls. Like, my only crushes are girls. I always think like maybe she will give me like the special answer, like the special code, where I could always, like, she's always more right than a friend giving advice, and that she will maybe give me the cheat code to always manage to sleep with my crush or things like that, you know what I mean? More because she might know better than guys what she thinks, but in the end it's not true at all. So no, it's not that much difference, I would say. Maya, is the question. What's your, if you feel comfortable to,
I don't know, I have to think about it. No.
now if you can give us your body count.
Well, when I told Thomas, he told me that I'm always a step ahead of him, so it's 15, one more than Thomas.
You do the math, yeah.
No, who knows? It was yesterday we had that discussion.
Yeah,
Maybe.
true. You weren't in the hostel last night.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
And well, how do you feel about the number and everything that revolves around body counts?
I think sleeping with different people gave me a lot of comfortability. An interesting topic to talk about. I think what I more so have talked about with female friends is actually them being embarrassed having sex with the lights on. And I think when I was having sex with the first 2 or 3 people, that used to be a thing for me as well. But for example, now that's something that changed completely, that I don't mind if it's bright lights because I feel comfortable. I know that the sex is not about the other person judging every little detail of your body, but just appreciating you or the sexual tension that you have. Something where I have to say that didn't come with the experience of sleeping with 15 people yet is being completely comfortable and trying specific things. For example, I've never had anal sex. I don't think that I'm ready for that yet, even though I want to try a lot of different things. Also something where we were talking about yesterday with Thomas, dirty talk throughout sex is something where I can't keep a straight face. That's something that I have to... Also, I want to learn how it feels like swapping roles or experiencing different things. And that's something that I actually, when I didn't sleep with 15 people yet or hadn't slept with them yet, I thought it would come with a number like this. But no, it's something that I feel really comfortable with, but still I gain for more experience because I think sex is a really, really interesting part of life.
But do you think it's just a number that allow you to do those things and not more like a... Sorry. So do you think, I will maybe repeat the question, do you think it's just a number that allows to try out more things, or
No.
if you find the right person from the beginning, or like at the beginning or in the second or the third one, you can also try other things? And also about the anal sex and dirty talks, I think also maybe, I don't know for you, but some things, I don't talk about those things specifically, but I would maybe never like them also. And it's not just about trying them out. I still think we have to try a lot of things in general in life, food, but also sex, I guess. So
Combined.
Sorry?
Combined.
Yeah, combined maybe. Yeah, that's all, for example. But I also think that sometimes there's maybe things that you never want to try, and it's also okay to... It's not a competition also, I think, maybe. No, I'm not talking, of course, about you. I'm talking about the listeners right here.
No, that's very true. I think there is no right or wrong. Like, a big thing also is when you lose your virginity, I think there is so much pressure on sex. It's something that I think is should be considered as something so normal that there shouldn't be embarrassment or boundaries about talking about it with your parents, for example. Obviously, if you don't have that kind of relationship, it's something that you might not want to share because it's still something intimate. But in my head, actually, when I want to be old in 10 years, my perfect idea for a job would be a couples or sex therapist, family therapist as well, something like this, because I consider sex to be something natural. And I think if you take away the not importance, but the pressure that society puts on it, it gives you the space and the freedom to be more free in deciding what you might want to experience, with how many people you want to sleep with, for what amount of time you don't want to have sex because you don't feel like having sex or just feeling like masturbation. So I think I agree with you. There is different aspects to it. And I don't think it's about the number. I think there is people that have had one boyfriend for the last 5 years and they've experienced more. They came more often. It's, I think, something that is really not dependent on with how many people you have slept with.
Have you ever been in a relationship?
No,
in a long-term committed, not long-term, but exclusive relationship.
The Spanish volunteer, just to do a little full circle moment, we had a sexual relationship for 3 weeks when we volunteered together, and then he went away, and because we thought we would see each other in January again, we had decided to be in my first relationship and in his first exclusive relationship that in the end lasted for I think 2 weeks. So that was the only relationship experience I ever had. And also I think for me right now, I want to be in love with the person that I commit to being in a relationship with, and that's something that I have never felt for a person.
All right. My question now is, what is your impression of the landscape of sex for young women in 2024? How do you feel about? Do you think there's challenges that you're facing specifically? What is your impression of this whole world you're evolving in?
Maybe even on saying the body count out loud. That can be,
I think so. Landscape for us women. I think on the one hand, the internet and the access to internet is great because you have the opportunity to do a lot of research on how things work, on how people just experience sex. There's a lot of people opening up on the internet, but I think that can also create the idea of everyone around you basically being sexually active, which in the end also will create pressure that mostly you put on yourself. I think regarding the people that I'm surrounded with, I feel comfortable talking about sex, but it wasn't like this all the time. Like I was also more shy about this topic before. So I have empathy for people that are still, for example, didn't have sex yet or are just not as comfortable to talk about it. I think you should also, always respect other people and their point of view. And that's something that I think being a virgin at, for example, 19 or even younger, I had my first time when I was 17 and I felt really old already. So now I know it's completely fine. There is no one that judges you except for yourself. But as I said, I used to have a lot of issues with that as well. So I think that's something where society has to work on as well, and you individually as well, to come to the realization that it's something completely normal, even if you lose your virginity or gain certain experiences only with being 25 or 30.
17 is pretty much average for losing your virginity anyway. So, but yes, you're right. Yeah, no pressure, guys.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is like feeling safe during the first time, or and respected and. That is nice. And even maybe from my experiences of talking to people, not always, I don't want to make a general idea, but sometimes the younger they have sex, girls and women, boys and women, men and women, the more they're young in general, when they make sex, sometimes the more the experience is bad. Like I'm not sure what, but I kind of think that a lot of my friends had sex pretty early, like let's say 13, 14, even 15 to even 16. Like the experiences, especially for the woman, sadly, but sometimes also for the men was worse than people that have done it at like 17, 18, 19. That's what I heard from like people talking and stuff like that. And for example, did you have like a bad experience at 17, good experience, awful?
My first time.
Yeah, your first time, yeah. And maybe the first time, and if it was with somebody you saw on a long period, did it get better? How was it?
So I think that's maybe also what you were talking about before, is the lack of communication that makes people feel insecure when having sex and also unsafe. I think sexual education is also something that is still lacking a lot. And obviously a 13-year-old child, it's a child still, is not as responsible most of the times to educate themselves on certain things, especially if the partner is pressuring them into something or they're pressuring themselves. This lack of communication was also an issue for me when I had my first time. I was high when I had the first time with a guy that was in an extended friend group of mine. And I think we communicated well in that sense that we both felt safe, and I really was committed to doing or to having penetrational sex. I had oral sex before that. But after that, we saw each other for about 3 months and had sex on a regular basis. And it was never that I had really the ability to communicate to him how I would find my pleasure. So he would come basically every time we had sex, and for me it was never the case. And that's something that I only shared with with Elena, a good friend of mine recently, that I thought of, and I'm still embarrassed to say it out loud, that after some time, and that's something that I will never ever let someone do to me again, and I still have to laugh because it's crazy how he disrespected me. He would start watching things when I would give him a blowjob, and that's something that I felt so... in that moment I didn't realize it, but like after some time, thinking about it makes me ick for that person's behavior. So that's something I think where you also have to realize where your boundaries are. Maybe for someone else it's a kink, maybe they like it if you communicate it, but for me that was something that completely took away the worth that he should have given to me pleasing him, being intimate with him, and sharing my attention with him.
I mean, I think you really... The most important sentence, I think, is like when you said maybe it's okay if you communicate about it. And I think that's kind of the secret in sex that sadly we as men, but also girls, we don't always manage to apply in a sexual life. But that's kind of I think, except from really maybe awful things, there's no really sexual thing that is like too crazy or too awful if it's like consented by the two parties that have sex and they both like it. I think kind of almost everything is possible. I mean, there's a really large spectrum of things you can do once you talk about it and you have the consent of your partner, and vice versa. I think that's more about that than really the thing itself.
The act itself, that's true. I think the issue for me is, or what I would consider the issue in general, is even if you're capable of communicating in the beginning of what you would like to do or what you could imagine yourself trying out, after you've experienced that one time and you see that the other person finds pleasure in that maybe you're more likely doing something that actually you don't feel comfortable with, but just out of not wanting to ruin the sexual tension, or maybe losing the part, like the liking of the partner towards you, you're giving in and you're giving up on your own ideas of that sex. So I think realizing every time and questioning how you feel when you have done a specific thing in sex, even though if it's normal sex, sometimes I think just thinking if you actually want to have sex, or if it's just that now your partner wants to have sex, so you're gonna have sex, but realizing what you truly want, and not only one time communicating if you're comfortable with, for example, more rough sex, because that can change after specific experiences. That's the way to go. That's something that I learned, and I still have to learn as well.
That's perfect. And I would like to ask a question that we didn't directly ask last time to Cooper, but I think it will be also like a everyday every podcast question. Maybe not to end. It depends. But have you ever had a panic attack?
No,
And why so? Okay.
I don't think I ever had a panic attack.
Okay, you're lucky.
But
Why do you ask the question?
No, I think it's maybe as the question that can sound funny, like what's your body count, as you just saw now and last time also with our first podcast, cheap ass podcast. There's always that's is more about what is behind the question that's important, and the question is a way of like having a bit of fun and blah blah. But I think it will be a bit the same with panic attack. I think it can be a nice thing to know, like how is the mental state and of that person we interview, and easily how to, because we also live in the, like talking with people, I found out that so many people our age have panic attacks, have anxiety, have things, and they don't talk about it. And you're like, you can know somebody for like 1 year, that person will always be smiling, and one day you go home with that person, I don't know, because he's sleeping at your place, a friend of yours or like a friend from a friend, and you communicate a bit more, and that friend of yours said, hey man, I didn't talk about it, but sometimes when I do that, like I'm so stressed, I like sweat, I feel like I'm dying and stuff like that. And yeah, that's sad. Like a lot of people have it, and so myself included. Yeah, of course, myself included. But I talk already about it. I will talk. I mean, me and Francois you will know things about us, podcast after podcast, and maybe one time, who knows? Maybe we could do like a whole podcast about himself. It can be fun about talking. That could be a fun thing. But yeah, I have some, as you know, for like confined space and confined situation also, even in theoretical situation. I think we can wrap it up. Well, it was amazing, really.
Do you have any last thoughts, any last words you want to tell your listeners?
Thank you for having me. And I think what we did right now, right here, is great. Just sitting down, being grateful for your friends, sharing openly about things that you're thinking of yourself, and just, I don't know, thinking, like learning about other perspectives on life. It's a great thing. Now we have a little setup here, but you can do that even with having dinner. Just be open about yourself and don't fear to be rejected or to be too intimate about specific things. I think that's really, really helpful to develop good relationships with yourself and friends.
Yeah, and I think go travel. Like, maybe we could give 2 or 3 advice about how to travel for free or like really cheap. So you have the volunteering position, you have Workaway also, who allows to work in other countries, and you're not that paid that well, but you can stay for free, eat for free, and you have all kind of stuff. Maybe Francois.
Sorry for that. I'll link stuff in the description of. I'm really passionate about this. I'll link stuff in the description of this episode. You should look into Erasmus Plus youth exchanges, training courses, volunteerings, and as probably you did, Interrail, through the mechanism of what is it called? Discover EU. If you're 18 years old, look into that as well. Check the links in the description, guys.
Maya, thanks again for opening that much. Yeah, it was amazing. Like, you really opened, like, it was really cool. We learned so many things, and everybody will learn so many things. I hope we could help you guys. It was the Cheap Ass Podcast.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Ciao, guys. Ciao.
Bye-bye.